Your hobby didn't die because you're lazy. It died because you accidentally bought the wrong thing. You thought you were buying a guitar, a pair of running shoes, a sketchbook, but what you actually bought was an identity. The guitar was just the receipt. You thought you were buying a guitar, but you were buying a version of you sitting in warm light, casually playing a song while everyone realizes you're deeper than they thought. You didn't buy running shoes because you dream of being out of breath behind a gas station at 7 a.m. You bought them because you imagined being the kind of person who has discipline and somehow owns matching socks. That's the trap. The fantasy is instant. The skill is not. And buying things feels like progress. You click order. Progress. You unbox it. Progress. You watch 7 beginner tutorials and save a playlist called Absolute Beginner Guide. That's basically a college degree. Every step feels like proof, but it's still just the receipt. You're collecting evidence that you're a musician without making a single sound. The brain loves this stage because nothing has gone wrong yet. You're still in the fantasy zone where the guitar is always in tune, the run always happens during golden hour, and you never spend 40 minutes wondering why the software says invalid configuration when all you did was breathe near. Then reality arrives, and reality is rude. The guitar hurts your fingers. The first song sounds like a chair falling downstairs. Running doesn't feel like a Nike commercial. It feels like your lungs are trying to unsubscribe from your body. And the sketchbook reveals that drawing a normal-looking eye is apparently a federal-level engineering problem. This is the exact moment the hobby starts to die. Not because the hobby is bad, not because you're bad, but because the fantasy and the process finally meet each other, and they hate each other. So you keep the receipt and abandon the guitar becomes furniture. The proof of purchase outlives the purchase. The fantasy says, I thought we were becoming an interesting person. The process says, cool. First, repeat this tiny boring movement 600 times. Because the thing nobody warns you about is being a beginner. Being a beginner means you have taste but no skill. You know what good looks like. Your hands don't. And that gap hurts so much that your brain hands you one very convenient sentence. Maybe this just isn't for me. It feels like wisdom. Usually it just means, I didn't enjoy being bad at this, which is completely normal. Nobody enjoys being bad. And modern life makes it worse because we don't see beginners anymore. We see finished people, the perfect cover, not the 300 hours of ugly practice, the clean sketch, not the pile of cursed faces before it. The internet compresses years into a 12-second clip, so your day 3 gets compared to someone else's year 7. Your hobby isn't broken, you're just seeing the part everyone else edited out. So here's the reframe. A real hobby doesn't begin when you buy the equipment or announce it or build the perfect setup. A real hobby begins when the fantasy gets bored and leaves, and you keep going anyway, which means you're asking the wrong question. Don't ask, do I want to be a guitarist? Ask, am I willing to sound bad for 15 minutes a day? Don't ask, do I want to be an artist? Ask, am I willing to draw ugly things without making it mean something terrible about my soul? That's the real hobby, not the identity, the repeatable discomfort, the small boring action you can tolerate long enough for it to become rewarding. So make it smaller than your fantasy wants. Don't buy the professional drawing set. Buy one pencil. Don't sign up for a marathon. Walk outside for 10 minutes. Because the more dramatic the start, the more dramatic the collapse. A hobby doesn't need a life transformation. It needs a place in your Tuesday. A normal, slightly tired, imperfect Tuesday, where the realistic version is 12 minutes of practice and then a snack. That counts. That's how hobbies survive. By becoming less magical and more available. So if your guitar is in the corner right now and your running shoes are judging you from the hallway, maybe the hobby didn't die. Maybe the fantasy died. Maybe you can finally throw away the receipt and keep the actual thing. Day 1 is easy. Day 8 is the real test. Because if you can keep going while you're still bad, that's when the hobby finally becomes real.